Greetings and welcome to some more chess. What I'm going to do here with this game is this is not a game I played, thankfully. This is a game I saw on a chess app where I watch chess games between a lot of amateurish players, people who don't really, you know, really play the game. Let's just say they're very untrained, so amateurish players. I learn a lot from watching these guys because sometimes when you watch the pros play, it can get a little boring because it's just a lot of the same stuff over and over again. But man, I tell you what, man, you get some of the most wildest positions playing when you watch amateurs play, and you actually learn a lot. There's a lot to learn from watching amateur chess players. Not trying to downplay or insult anybody, but these players are like in the four. They'd probably ranked in 400 or 500 range tops. Um, so we're going to go through the game here, and the idea, what I want to go do here is themes, particular lessons to be learned in these kinds of games. And the lesson I want us to learn, I want us to learn in this particular game is a lesson called simplifying the position. And I'll tell you what that means when we get to the point. But first, let's go through this game. King's pawn opening, knights, both pieces grabbing center control. This is the most popular opening, the most basic, straightforward opening. Allows the bishops and the queens to come out if we wanted to. A lot of beginner players like this idea and white goes for the wayward queen attack, trying to hit this pawn and all that stuff like that. So, but we don't have that in this game, which is a good idea, by the way. The wayward queen attack is a horrible idea. If black knows how to deal with it, he can actually very easily turn the tables on white, and white's done. I've seen it so many times in these games. Anyways, so white insists on attacking this pawn, which is the best move, and it's a great move. All right, so black plays the follow-up best move, which is defending the pawn. So everything here you're seeing is very standard stuff. Now the best option for white here is to actually play bishop to b5. This is known as the Ruy Lopez opening. The idea is you want to trade off the knight so that you can continue to attack this pawn, so you're removing the defender of this pawn. And then, black can play things like you can threaten the pawn, and white has the option of taking. That's a standard move, and usually you take towards the center, but actually in this position it's usually better for black to capture with this pawn. I think the idea is that if white, I've had this happen before, by the way, if white captures with this is actually not the best move, because now you can play queen to d4, and you're actually forking both pieces, and white can't save both pieces. He can only save one piece. Obviously you're going to have to choose the knight, and then lose the pawn here. The only good thing that white has going for him here, because you got to block that with the knight, because if you don't, you lose the knight. You lose the knight, and you might have to trade off the queen to prevent losing more material and try to get some counterplay in the center. So, but the only good thing that's going for white there is black's just moving his queen constantly. That's like the only good thing. So that's one idea. The other idea, of course, is white can just move backwards, and I don't want to do that just yet. Black can eventually continue to attack that bishop and push that bishop away. So that's the best thing to do. But white plays this move. Now, why does he play this move? Well, he wants to stop this knight from going to b4. He wants to stop the bishop from going to b4. Now, if you actually know a decent amount of chess, you know it's not a good idea to move the same piece twice in the opening. So it would be a bad idea either way. Even if white didn't play this move, which is a defensive move. Every time you see your opponent play this little move in the opening, especially that early, it's a purely defensive move. It's to stop this and to stop this. But you shouldn't play that move anyway. So, anyways, we digress. So white wastes an opportunity. Not a good move. It's not a bad move, but it's still not a good move. So black's going to take advantage of this and continue to develop pieces in the center while taking advantage of white's now fallen behind a little bit in development. Not completely, but he's usually ahead, and now it's kind of like very even. You want to stay ahead as white. When you're playing as white, you want to continue to maintain that advantage as white. But black's going to take advantage of that and play the best move, which is attacking this pawn. White plays the follow-up best move, defending the pawn with this knight. Again, right now, everything is very standard. There's nothing wrong with either of these kind of moves. This move is a little bit of a mistake. The best move for black is actually to play pawn to d5 because once again, black has now gained a little bit of an advantage in the development process in capturing the center or taking control of the center, basically forcing white to take this. But the problem with taking that is white's pawn is now off-centered, and black's going to recapture with a knight. Daring this knight to capture back, it's going to take back with the queen. It's not totally lost, obviously, but it could have some problems for whites because what you want to do in the game at the beginning of this game is, or the game of chess in general, is you want to have center control. You got to get pieces to have some kind of influence in the center. So that's not the best move to play. That was and then white again. So this is a purely defensive move. Again, another purely defensive move for white. And at this point, the game is like not tolerating this. Okay, it's like telling white, you gotta stop doing this. All right, stop this because you're wasting time in these defensive moves. You can eventually play this. Like if he plays knight to, g4, you can eventually just play that and just kick the knight. You can, whenever that's necessary to play that one, then you can play it. But don't waste your time doing it right now. The game wants actually white to play this. And the reason why the game wants white to play this is you're giving up a knight for a pawn, yeah. But then you play this as a follow-up. That's the idea. You fork two pieces. And usually the best move for black, I think, is actually to go ahead and... I think it's to let the bishop fall. No. It's actually to play this. So when he takes, you just take back. That's the best move. That's the best way for black to maintain the position and equalization. So that's why that's the best idea. Even though it maintains equalization, the game remains equal. There you go. So, but black finally plays the best move. Black, once again, takes advantage of white just not wanting to fight for the center, white playing too cautious. There is such a thing as in this game as being too cautious. And a friend of mine, when he told me he's starting to play, he said, I'm more of a defensive player. I'm discovering as I'm playing chess. And that's great. A defensive player like Hikaru, Grandmaster, one of the best, probably the second best player in the world right now behind Magnus. I know he may not like hearing that, but but at the same time, Hikaru still understands sometimes you can be too cautious. Don't be too cautious. Don't be too defensive. Don't waste your time in the opening with moves like these. Okay, play those when they're necessary. So white takes back here, black takes back. Best move. There you go. Again, not get too critical here. Not a bad move. I would say not a great move either. This blocks this bishop. You could probably move the bishop here first and try to pin that knight, and then maybe start playing this. Takes, and then you're gaining some center control for white. That's probably the better option, I think. Like, let's go back here. Let's see if so that was the best move. So pinning the knight so that then you could eventually play d4, or threaten at least to play d4. That was the best option. But instead he played this, and he actually blocked the bishop. And so, again, careful with these moves. You got to think about these in the opening before you play moves like this. You got to go, before I play that, I got to recognize it's going to block my bishop. It's going to be really tough to develop this bishop at this point. Should I bring the bishop out first and then play something like this eventually at some points? You got to think about those things. All right, so black plays a pretty nice move here. The reason why this is a nice move because it forces white to recapture here and double up pawns. And if you can force your opponent to double up pawns, it's usually a good thing. Now, the one thing, though, that there's a little bit of an advantage this gives white. White is losing slightly, by the way, because white delays developments. That's probably one of the reasons why white is losing slightly, not a lot, but slightly. He's starting to lose ground here. But one of the advantages this does do for white is it does allow white to still continue to push this, I think. Let's see if we push this. Takes. Maybe not, right? I mean, it's probably not a good idea at this point in the game. But he can think about that eventually, especially with, I think, some of the queen moves that black makes. So when you see white play this, every time you see your opponent just kind of play this like subtle bishop move, like, what's that doing? It's just preparing a castle, and then he's going to do something with that bishop later on. So that when you see your opponent do that, it's like, okay, he wants to castle. So, all right. Good move for black. Getting the bishop out, just solid developing moves. That's just all he's doing right there. White castles, and black's going to move his queen out right here. Now, this queen move here is a battery set up on this. I don't think it's a good idea necessarily. I mean, if white just played something like, I don't know, let's see what the best move for white is at this point in the game. Best move is just play bishop. So we go back to the review. Best move is play the bishop here. And actually, this is it's actually a pretty good move because you are actually forcing the bishop to deal with that because the bishop's hanging, and black could trade that off if he wants to. I think yeah. So good for white here is because white gets more centralized pawns, making up for, you might say, this double pawn problem he's got. But the best move for whites in this position is actually play this right here because it hits the bishop, also defends this pawn. Because again, if even if the knight was not there, the battery's not really going to work too well. You're sacrificing a bishop to take a pawn to a pawn, and for what? I mean, what are you getting? You are getting a queen right here, and it's kind of close to the king. But what's the follow up? Like, what are you doing next? I guess you play this bishop here, set it up there, but that's a lot of setup, and white has ways to counter that before you can really get that going. So, it's just is that a good plan? And so I just don't think it really is. Again, white can just play this and counter that. So that's the best move for white, and it's because this knight right here. So really quickly, I would just say here, when your opponent is castled, you got to pay attention to the knight over here. So let's like if we could flip this around, right? Or if we can think about this knight being right here. Just think about this knight being right here. That knight is a defensive knight, okay? It's very defensive. So usually I find myself, if I'm trying to get right into the castle structure right here, I got to take out this knight first because this knight's actually guarding some critical squares here that make it difficult for me to get any of my pieces in there to actually go after that king. So sometimes I've had situations where I would actually sacrifice the bishop, force the trade-off so that then I can get the check or the check right here and eventually win the game or break up or destroy the castle structure. All right, so the worst move that white can play really is this one. Like why do you need to play that? There's no need to play that one. Really not a good move at all. The best move again was knight to g5. It's doing two things at once. And then black plays this move. Now the game doesn't like this move, but you know what? Once again, think about this from the human perspective. Think about it from the human move, okay? Let's first look at what the best move is. Actually just go to G1 again. Just ignore the threat. Forget the threat. This isn't really going to work. You take this. I mean, again, you got to take that back, right? But what's the follow-up? Because now you have your queen right here. It's close to the king, but a lot of these guys just think, well, I got my queen close to his king, so I must be winning. No, you're not. You're not winning. Because this knight, again, the knight, it's a defensive piece. You got to get rid of the knight first. Before you start going in and blowing up the castle structure, take out the knight first. It's a defensive piece because this queen can't go here. He's protecting that. Knight's protected by the bishop. If it wasn't protected by the bishop, it's protected by the queen. And now you can just play this. And you got to move the queen back, and now you're down a piece, and you've just given up a bishop for what? Like, what are you gaining here? And now white probably has some counterattack options. So it's just, yeah. But black plays this move. The reason even though the game doesn't like this one, the reason why this move, from a human perspective, makes sense. It makes perfect sense is because this is actually setting up a discovered attack on the king, check, and losing the knight. So the best move, obviously, is to get the king out of there. So the discovered attack is no longer an option. He can just go ahead and take that back, and, black just loses a pawn for nothing. But remember what we said in the last video, you got to pay attention to what your opponent wants to do. When you play this bishop move, why does he play that? Well, just for the exact same reason I just told you. And white blunders, first of all, this blunder because, why? in pretty much any situation. The reason why you set up these pawns here is to keep them tight, close to your king. So the pawns are protecting your king while your king's protecting the pawns simultaneously. That's the whole idea. When you throw your pawns forward after you've castled, you're exposing your king to long-range attacks by the bishops and the queen. So don't do this. But the reason why this is a blunder, the main reason is because of this. Again, like I told you, the discovered attack. Ouch. King's got to move, and you lose the knights. Take back with the bishop. And so now white's completely losing. So this is really bad for white. Totally losing the game. And black plays this move. Game says, cool move, but it's not very aggressive. A more aggressive move is the knight here. That's a more aggressive move. You're hitting this. Whoops, you're hitting the bishop right here, and all that good jazz. So White's playing this. White plays d4. He's threatening a fork on these pieces right here, or I'm sorry, these pieces. And so Black's got to do something about that. You got to feel. Oh, this is not good. Okay, so what do we do? What's the best move here? And so yeah, see, this threatens to win a bishop through a fork. So the best move for Black is to counterplay again. Go on the counter attack. Play bishop to c4. You attack the rook. You force this. And, I would just go ahead and trade that off because the fork's coming anyway. You can also just go ahead and go for check right there if you wanted to. I guess that's a good move. That's not a bad idea. But, again, so Black just caught White not paying attention to what Black wanted. Okay? But the problem is Black doing the same thing? Is he being defensive? Is he paying attention to what White wants? Like I just told you what White wants. White wants this. So you got to watch out for that. And Black misses it and blunders in the opposite direction. And White plays, he takes complete advantage of it and plays d5, forks on these two pieces. Now, Black continues to play badly here. When you're forked like this, the best thing for you to do, again, is just try some kind of counterplay. This game says this is the best, I think this is the best option here you take. And then you get the knight out and, and there you go. And now you can play queen here and just put a lot of pressure here on that bishop and just go from there. But the problem here, well, Black plays this. He sees the fork, goes, oh crap, I missed it. But you know what? I'm going to try to go for counterplay and just see if I can just force that instead. But the reason why this doesn't work, now Black is still overwhelmingly winning here, so it's forgivable at this point in the game. But the reason why this doesn't work, like you're trying to go for the counterplay, is because White can just do that, and and you still got the fork problem. So what have you gained? You're still losing. You're still losing material here. So sometimes you just got to cut your losses and just try to play the best option, like I showed you in the last video when I did the bishop sacrifice. It's like, all right, well, I'm just going to have to go ahead and sacrifice this bishop. I really wanted to use this bishop for a long-range attack, but this is what it's going to have to be. Sometimes you just got to do that. So this doesn't work. It's actually just continue to lose material. But White continues to make big mistakes himself. Follow-up here is because of that, and just takes the pawn, and that's exactly what we see happen here. So a series of really, really bad ideas. White is just thinking, aha, I'm just going to attack the queen. And then, no, not really, because then there's just this. And, you take back here, sure, why not? But you lose this, and now you're down 3 points in material. And so that's what we get having happen here. Now, actually, Black takes back with the pawn here, which is the best move because it hits the queen. It discovers attacks on the queen. And so Black gains a tempo. Now, White plays g4. Not a bad move. I don't think it was like when I was watching this, I saw this move. I was like, I don't think that was a good move. It's kind of exposing your queen to attack right here. Your queen's kind of out in the open, and Black takes advantage of that and continues to attack that queen with a knight here. And White just continues to expose his queen. Now she's just undefended. Oh no, she's not. She's defended, but she's still just kind of out in the open. You can just continue to attack that queen, and just White's not able to really get anything set up. He's constantly trying to keep his queen alive, while Black is just able to move wherever he wants to go. So now Black plays the best move. So the bishop right here, that's not the best move. Black plays the best one, which is actually queen checks on c6 because it's actually a fork on 2 pieces. And now Black's going to win even more material and take this pawn. And there you go. So best move I think was, yeah, so that was the best move. If he takes back right here. What's the best option for Black? I think it's probably to, oh yeah, that's why. So Black doesn't go for that. He just goes for a free pawn. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. And White's desperate for counterplay. Now, at this point in the game, so you're Black, okay? If you are Black, you're winning this game. You are in total control. You're dominating. I mean, you're targeting this pawn right here with a check. White's position is totally collapsed. It's come apart totally, and White cannot afford to be trading pieces. If you're black, you can just the game plan is just like get the rooks in the game, and it's to continue to put pressure, and there's just nothing for white really to do at this point. There's so many problems. Black goes for that check, great block from white. Black retreats, and now he's got two pieces pressuring this pawn, and so again he can easily win another pawn. He's also guarding his knight here, and white trades off. Good move. I don't think it's a good move personally, because if you're white, again, you don't want to be trading pieces. You're down 5 points of material, and I mean it's just really, really bad. You've got a queen and two rooks versus a queen, two rooks, and a bishop, not to mention 5 pawns, and you have 3 pawns left. So you're really in a bad position here. So remember when I said we want to talk about simplifying the position. You're going to see here in a moment what that means. White attacks the queen here with this nice slick move here, by the way, with a rook here to c1, attacking the queen, guarded by his own queen. Very nice move. White plays this, best move, pressuring this right here. With a couple more follow-up moves, white can really put some pressure there. Now white goes for his own counterattack. The game wants you to, so in the game says white needs to play queen to g4 because it hits this check. It's also a defensive move. So you're doing two things at once. You know, in chess, if you can do more, you're also by the way offering the queen trade too. But if you can do two things at once, and even 3 things, potentially 4 things at once in a chess game, you've made a really solid move. But anyways, so but white plays this. He doesn't want to go defensively and you understand why. When you play defensively, you don't typically like to just be in pure defense. You want to be in control of the game. That's what you want to be when you're playing chess. You want to be the one controlling the moves. You want to be the one controlling your own moves and controlling your opponent's moves. When you're doing that, you're in full control of the game. You can just basically do whatever you want while your opponent doesn't get to do anything that he wants. All right. So, anyways, that's what white's trying to do. He's trying to go for counterplay. He's trying to put pressure on black, but black just has so many options, and so black just moves the bishop out of the way of the attack. He plays bishop to d6, and he's attacking this free pawn right here. Now white just goes ahead and goes for that free pawn, knowing he's probably going, well, this pawn's going to drop, so I'm just going to go ahead and take a pawn, free pawn, just to bait, like, you know, because if my pawn's going to drop, I'm going to take one of his, that kind of idea. But instead of taking the pawn, black actually plays a nice subtle c5 move, bishop c5, threatening the f2 knight, because now at this point you got the battery. Ooh, that's not good. White plays a really good move here. The best move is probably this. Well, yeah. So it is this. It moves the rook to a safer square, but and again, it can potentially be doing 2 things at once. But and like you can probably eventually play rook to g6 and threaten some really bad ideas for black here. Probably a mate, but he plays this, which is what I thought he was going to play. It was the move that I had in my mind when I saw this. E2, rook to E2, and it is a defensive move. White's like, you know, again, if you're white, you're probably like, I don't want to play that move, but I got to. I have to play that move. If I want to stay alive, I got to play this move. It's the best idea. And you have to remember, too, even though some of these are the best moves, they're not the best moves. These guys are on time limits. These guys are playing in the rapid. I don't remember exactly what the time constraints here, but you're running out of time. So sometimes you got to just going to play that one. Rook to E2 seems like the most clear move. It defends the rook, you know, whatever. Black adds the pressure right here. So black he's offering the trade of the rooks. Now, if you're black, once again, black can totally do these trades. Black is in a very comfortable position. He's totally fine doing the trades. He's also threatening, he's threatening this here to attack the queen here, try to get that queen out of there. Again, the queen's very exposed right now. So if you're black, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go for that trade. You know, go ahead and take back. You take back right there, and I go for check, and it's just game over. Oops, I can't. It's just basically game over. You can take that right there if he wants to, or you can just, yeah. White actually plays the best move here, d2. Excellent move. He hits the queen, and the rook's guarded by his own rook, not to mention his own queen. So at this point in the game, if you're black, and I saw this when I was playing this game, I saw this. I was thinking at this point, black needs to simplify the position. If black wants to win this game, black is in total control of this game. If he wants to maintain control, he has to simplify the position. Now, what does simplifying the position mean? It means you are going to play something like this rook to e5. You're going to ignore the threat on your queen. You're basically going to allow this to do this. And then now, here you can then, take that, and what's the strategy for white now? There is no strategy. It's game over. It's completely game over because black simplified. Black wins. Okay, I'm winning, but white's still got so much going on here with these rooks and his queen. Still a lot that he can do here, and just constantly counterattack a lot of my ideas of what I want to do. So what I need to do if I'm black is I need to take out one of these rooks and take out his queen. If I can do that, I'm in a solid position. I still have my bishop, the rook, and both my rooks. Oh, he's basically ends up with one rook left. And now I'm just completely winning. That's called simplifying the position. That's what black needs to do. And that's what the game wants black to do. But a lot of these guys, the problem with a lot of these players is they're relying on their queen so much. They just rely on their queen to take care of everything for them. Black doesn't want to lose his queen because he's like, that's how I win this game. That's how I'm going to win. Not always. You don't need to just always have your queen to win the game. If you're winning, a simple principle in chess is if you are winning the game, and which is hard to tell, right? It can be hard to tell sometimes because you don't have the evaluation bar over here to tell you that you're winning the game. But an easy way to tell if you're winning, like a pretty easy way to tell, is just looking at the position and just going, do I feel comfortable in this position? Do I feel like I'm still in control? Do I feel like if you think that, then you may not be winning, but you're still in the game. You're still doing all right. White right now is not very comfortable. White has to be careful with every single move he makes because one bad move and he's done. It's over. Black doesn't need to be worrying about that right now. Black's got so many options. So clearly black is winning. So you need to just go ahead and simplify. And by playing, again, rook to e5, just go, you know what, fine. Let's just get the queens off the board. Let's do it. I'm fine with that. But no, black plays instead. He plays actually c3, and this is where everything starts to come apart. The reason why this loses a bishop. So, check. Yeah. Okay, so let's go over that really quickly here. Yeah, so the reason why this loses the bishop is because queen checks right here. Rook blocks it. And then this rook attacks this queen, which forces the queen to move, take a pawn, and loses that bishop. That's why that is a lost bishop. And so, and white actually goes for the check, finds the check, but white misses the right follow-up after black plays, because black didn't block with the rook. Black actually just moved the king out of the way, and at that point you need to play check right here. But white plays this instead. The game doesn't like it. Yeah, because of this. So once again, just really quickly, here again, the reason why this doesn't work, this is bad, because black can just play this, counterplay. It says, all right, you take my queen, fine. I take yours. And I still keep my bishop while I got two rooks. And what do you do now if you're white? Again, remember, if you are up in material, you're fine. You're totally comfortable with trades. You can do the trades. You're like, everything's peachy for you. You're like, I don't mind trading off more material. If you're the one who's down in material, you can't afford to be losing pieces. So go for this trade. This simplifies the position. This gets the queens off the board, and it's even easier for black to win the game. So that's what black needs to do. But once again, black makes a serious mistake right here. He plays queen to f6, which absolutely blunders the bishop. And white takes it, but he misses the opportunity. The game wants him to take it with this. Show follow, because there's this. And yeah, so that's why, because then, black's going to have to hesitate for the check right here. But that's a blunder, ouch, and now white is starting to get back into this game. So black goes for that check, and again, white can't block that check because he didn't capture with the rook instead. So white has to move. Not the best one, but and why in the world black played this? I have no idea. I don't understand this move at all. Totally threw this rook for a stinking pawn. I don't get it. But black's gonna keep going. Okay, solid move. Now black's completely losing. Black is totally losing. Again, the reason why black is losing is because he didn't simplify the position. Now he's lost. It's just now he's down 3 points of material. Just like that, the game is turned around. And now white's just going to go ahead and white's going to do exactly what black should have done a long time ago. White's going to go check and force the rook to take back with a check and lose his rook. And now all black has is a queen, while white's got a queen and a knight and a rook. So again, white is doing what black should have done. Excellent play from white, simplifying the position. Moving the rook here to connect it with the queen. And it's bad news here for, I mean, the best move was actually g2, but I think white played that because he wanted to try and stop the checks, endless checks from black, even though he can just go ahead and just check or whatever. Either way, it doesn't really matter. It's still game over. So black's going to just start trying to check white into oblivion here. He's like, so this is desperate black right here. Black's like, crap. Oh, crap. Everything here sucks. Oh, dude, how did this happen? What happened here? What happened here is you didn't simplify. You didn't force the queen trades to simplify the position and continue to win. And so black plays this. He's probably playing this like, oh, yeah, I got a fork. Yeah, that doesn't work because the queen's actually guarding the rook. There is no fork. There is no fork. And now after this, black just goes, just take a pawn and just go from there. But now, because there is no more checks left, white's going to go on his own attack, and once again, white finds the best move, and it is once again simplifying the position, forced the queen trade. See, white sees it. White gets it. You know why? Because white was on the opposite end of this. White was in the desperation. White was in the position when you're so badly losing, you're looking to go, like right here. You're like, dude, if I can just trade off the queens, I can work from there, but his queen is here running around, and that scares you, man. That scares everybody. That scares everybody. And so when you're under attack and you're being pressured and your opponent's queen is so close to you, you try to trade that off. And so white sees that. White understands because white's been on that end right there. And so white's like, all right, yeah, let's get these queens off the board. And it's easy now. It's totally easy. Force the queen trade. Now black's got nothing. He's got these pawns here. How can you get these things? And white's just going to take that rook, and he's just going to start gobbling up all these pawns. And black is going to desperately try to walk this pawn down for a promotion, but white's just going to eventually just play this when black gets far enough away. And now look at that. White's just playing that now. And he's going to go take out this pawn. White is perfectly ready to get rid of that rook, to sacrifice that rook in order to prevent black from getting the queen that he wants. Yeah, I'm going to sacrifice that. So he gives with the rook because now black's got nothing and white's going to get the queen and white wins the game. Black should have resigned because there's no way you're winning this, but he's just going to keep going because he just likes to get humiliated, I guess, and just gets himself eventually checkmated. And there you go. There's the game. So once again, guys, so the lesson we learn here in this game, what this game has taught us, you need to, when you're winning, when you are winning and you are in a situation like this, and you're finding it still hard, even though you're completely winning, you're finding it really hard to find the winning shot. You just need, and so you're black here, you need to simplify. You need to try and force the queen trades. See, the game was asking for the queen trade right here at this point in the game. And black just wouldn't go for it. Black just continuously tried to find some kind of something with his queen, and just would not go for the trade of the queens here and allow these rooks to run around. The rooks just were able to go wherever they wanted to go, and and that's what happened. So simplify the position, guys. Know when to simplify. That's what you got to do. All right, so I will talk to you all in the next one.